and welcome to Change Happens, a weekly gathering of things that I found entertaining, informative, or thoughtful as I made my way through the digital cave that is the interweb.
Well, here we go, volume 105. As always, have a great day. Find your way. December 1st, 2024. How do I know what you see? It has on occasion come to my attention that I and you see different colors of a thing. I know a child of great intellect and acumen. His insights are appealing, yet he insists that green is blue, and further, that blue is green. We have agreed that this is less a breach of reality and more a proof that reality is unconcerned with our agreements. We, he and I, consider this matter at rest. Change Happens is partially brought to you by a father and a daughter discussing matters, hyperventilating the podcast, entertaining, thoughtful, and informative. Join us every Wednesday. First up today, do you now have the time? Headline, How Railroads Inspired the Creation of Time Zones. From the article. For millennia prior to this date, many people around the world measured time based on the placement of the sun, with midday or high noon determined by when the sun was highest in the sky over that particular village or town. Mechanical clocks eventually started replacing sundials in the Middle Ages. Towns would set their clocks by gauging the position of the sun, leading every city to operate on a slightly different time. This method lasted well into the 1800s, when there were at least 144 different time zones in North America. My take? If you only travel by horse or by foot, you don't need time zones. It's not even a consideration. No time is spent wondering where the sun is in the sky for somebody 1,000 miles away. Most likely you aren't concerned with anything beyond where you've already been. The railroad changed all that. Now it mattered where the sun was beyond the horizon. The introduction of the railroad made it obvious that we needed some means to agree upon the time relative to each other. We needed trains to know where and when other trains were on the track, and people needed to know when the trains would be arriving and departing. Life was now to become much more specifically about the mechanisms of order. The Right to Bear Fools. Headline, How to Accept Criticism with Grace and Appreciation. From the article. How do you stay above the attacks and be the better person? By removing yourself from the criticism and looking only at the actions criticized. My take. This is one guy's opinion on criticism, his approach to it, how he has changed his approach and been able to manifest a better attitude towards it. I found it to be a nice reminder of the role criticism plays, especially in today's society where everybody's got an opinion on everything, informed and otherwise. People are quick to tear down things that they may or may not understand, and is likely to pump the tires of things in a way that's probably not any more warranted or useful. Being able to hear and process criticism without losing your mind is essentially a superpower. I think, in large part, this ability separates people who are successful from people who are not. Being able to hear it and take it for what it is. In some cases it can be useful, and in other cases it's just nonsense. Knowing which is which and having the courage to hear it and then decide on its value is a skill worth cultivating. Perhaps less could be more. Their headline, Why the Simple Life is Not Just Beautiful, It's Necessary. From the article. But the problem isn't just that our practice conflicts with professed beliefs. Our thinking about simplicity and luxury, frugality, and extravagance is fundamentally inconsistent. We condemn extravagance that is wasteful or tasteless, and yet we tout monuments of past extravagance, such as the Forbidden City in Beijing or the Palace of Versailles, as highly admirable. The truth is that much of what we call culture is fueled by forms of extravagance. It's a good article for generating a consideration of the advantages of living a simpler life. We are increasingly being forced to lead simpler lives circumstantially. Whether it is economically or environmentally, we find ourselves needing to reassess lifestyle. I think there's the possibility of a larger consideration here. The idea that reducing the amount of things that you have or pursue in your life makes it easier to focus on the things that may truly matter. There's something to be said for reconsidering meaning and value. November 26, 1917, the National Hockey League, the greatest sport on earth. From the Wiki rabbit hole. The National Hockey League was organized at the Windsor Hotel in Montreal on November 26, 1917, after the suspension of operations of its predecessor organization, the National Hockey Association, which had been founded in 1909 at Renfrew, Ontario. The NHL immediately took the NHA's place as one of the leagues that contested for the Stanley Cup in an annual interleague competition before a series of league mergers and foldings left the NHL as the only league competing for the Stanley Cup in 1926. Followers are not friends. Their headline, The Myth of the Loneliness Epidemic. From the article. Social scientists studying a representative town in America's heartland reported widespread concern among its residents that friendship was waning, that true friends were fewer than a generation before. This report, Middletown, was published in 1929. About 2 decades later, The Lonely Crowd, a sociological study of American character in the post-war era, described its subjects as shallow conformists, eager to imitate others but lacking in deep connections. The article itself is quite a nerd festival of writing and citation, but it's an interesting and simply explained consideration of what friendship is and how it has been assessed over especially the last 100 years. It's worth asking if we are in the midst of a breakdown of what we have come to consider normal. Is our tribal existence beginning to run its course? Or, this seems more likely to me, are we feeling the effects of the splintering of our tribes in a world that is more connected mechanically and less connected in reality? Snake oil is always on sale. Their headline. What were we thinking? The most dangerous ads. From the article. While some faulty campaigns were merely the victims of evolving scientific knowledge, many blatantly ignored facts in their race for the dollar, using so-called experts to promote products terrible for public health, like cigarettes. Revered professionals like doctors and scientists routinely told us precisely the wrong things to do, as they are likely still doing today. Some of these things are outrageous, just mind-boggling they ever came to be accepted. From vitamin-filled donuts to Lysol as a woman's hygiene product and 7-Up for babies. Wow. It still goes on today. We see you out there, shady little influencer, going against scientific convention and using your dubious authority to sell modern snake oil. Rolling up to town in your podcast, posting your garbage with the benefit of the power of confidence and ignorance. Greasy weasels making a buck off trust remains a human constant. Able to label food. Headline, Smartest Animals in the World. According to the majority of behaviorists and animal psychologists, intelligence can be understood as mental or behavioral flexibility, or the ability of an organism to solve problems occurring in its natural and social environment, culminating in the appearance of novel solutions that are not part of the animal's normal repertoire, according to researchers Ursula Dickey and Gerhard Roth. Just like us, animals can showcase remarkable problem-solving skills, emotional intelligence, and even self-awareness. Humans make the list at number 1. Hard to argue if the metric is computational power. I'm not sure how they ordered this list, but the definition from the article and the quote above is probably as good as any for defining intelligence for the sake of this kind of discussion. The value in this article is the light it shines on the obvious intelligence that many animals possess. Knowing that an elephant prepares food or uses tools is not just trivia. Realizing that an octopus is capable of a myriad of activities requiring complex calculations is not trivial knowledge. There are people with less problem-solving ability than an octopus. Everyone is not necessarily smarter than their food. Nature is the source of all true knowledge. She has her own logic, her own laws. She has no effect without cause, nor invention without necessity. The great Leonardo da Vinci, polymath. Thank you for joining me today. I very much look forward to next week.
When we meet again inside the spectacular human repository of everything and nothing, it's your life, you understand.